Hopefully, carry on. I've borrowed just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
So I'm here to return it back. Thank you for buying the food.
Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to McGeorge's You Inspire Web graphics design class. Today I'm going to be having topography and color, which will be taken by our UI UX designer, McGeorge UI UX designer, who has been UI UX designer for 5 years counting. So everyone, good evening. Welcome to Mr. Goodness and your home that is going to inspire web graphics design class. Today I'm going to be having topography and color, which will be taken by our UI UX designer, McGeorge UI UX designer, who has been UI UX designer for 5 years counting. So everyone, good evening. Welcome to Mr. Goodness and your home that is going to inspire web graphics design class. Today I'm going to be having topography and color, which will be taken by our UI UX designer, McGeorge UI UX designer, who has been UI UX designer for 5 years counting.
Good evening, everyone.
So
This section of graphics.
I'm happy to have everybody here today. Last week, we did basic introductions to graphics design, and I was taken by one of my colleagues, and he did justice to taking introduction as regards graphic design, trying to bring us to speed about what graphics is all about, and we did a lot of we'll be looking at typography and color theory. As the moderator has rightly introduced, my name is Goodness and I'm a UI UX designer. So today we'll be walking through typography and color theory. So here is that we need to understand the fundamentals of typography and color psychology. We need to understand what
typography and color, which will be taken
the best practice for typography.
our
Let's go into
UI UX
some
designer,
of the basic
McGeorge
things
UI
that we
UX
need to
designer, who
understand
has
as regards to
been
typography.
UI
Looking
UX
through
designer
colors,
for
driving through
5 years counting.
Good evening,
the
everyone.
emotions
So
behind all
everyone
these
can
colors that
ensure
are
that
just
you
you don't just wake up all of a sudden and decide that I want to be blue, or you just need to say I want to use green. Did basic introduction behind graphics design. One of the things that I have come to see in graphics is that one of my colleagues, you're not just pushing pixels, you're not just drawing those rectangles and painting them. Then taking introduction as regards there is always trying to thought process behind bring us to speed about what it's always all about. The reason behind it. Every design typography out there, color theory that are perfectly designed by as the moderator, as my good colleague who are graphic designers and as well people that do UI and I'm a UI UX. We are not just pushing graphics. Today we are walking through down. There's a lot of process behind the scene before you see typography, and it looks very appealing to you. So today we'll be looking at all of those, and we'll be at the end we should be able to apply those principles to create a very good design, and we should be able to develop skills that will help us to solve digital challenges in time. We need to understand the fundamentals. I want to quickly do a recap on what we did in color because that's just like the background. We need to understand what we're doing in color. We did say that graphics is for a visual communication, and it involves some key elements. Typography, some of the basic things that we need to understand. That's what we are doing. We're looking at color, like a building block.
Good evening,
The
everyone.
emotions from graphics, colors that anybody between. You don't just wake up and design and decide that that's all of those founding blocks, all of those blocks that you want or serve as a foundation to help you basic introduction behind graphics design. So we also talked about some of the areas We also talk about some of the areas whereby graphic design we are not just pushing pixels, justice to rectangles and paint. It's not just all about the editing logos and taking introduction as that there is always a particular company or being a particular brand. Talking about their logo, talking about the color, the talking about the typography, because it's all about the booking. Everything that is communication out there. One thing graphics does is you're actually communicating, but you need to ensure that you are communicating properly. So that's why you need to understand all of these basic things. So also we did say that using marketing as moderator as my good colleague just market that some of our services that we use. They are not just push. Also is used in editorial, all of these news, single arrangement, the text is being arranged on newspapers and every other publications we see out there. Then also packaging, and we've seen a lot of times that when we go to studio, we're looking at all the mall and see particular at the end, we should be able to apply this particular way, particular product on that. That catches your attention because of how it looks like. So one of the things that graphic design to develop skills that we have to store packaging challenges. Also by colleagues, we need to understand the fundamentals. I want to share quickly do a recap from what we did last month. Just particular clip. We need to understand what we're doing, how does it feel? I think I understand how will I put it. My own understanding is that motion graphics is just putting motion to graphics. It's putting motion to the image and making it image and involves some key elements of graphics. About principles like balance, contrast, alignment, repetition, proximity. Proximity is putting things that are similar, looking at color, like building blocks, the emotions, what is typography? Typography is the heart of arranging letters and text we can design a way that makes all of those legible, fountain, clear, all of those are visually appealing. One thing about the foundation emphasize the justice introduction behind the must be legible. So we also talked about some of the areas. We also talk about some of the areas whereby graphic design we are not just pushing pixels, justice to rectangles and paint. It's not just all about the editing logos and taking introduction as that there is always a particular company or being a particular brand. Talking about their logo, talking about the color, the typography, because it's all about the booking. Everything that is communication out there. One thing graphics does is you actually communicate, but you need to ensure that you are communicating properly. So that's why you need to understand all of these basic things. So also we did say that using marketing as moderator as my good colleague understand what the market that typography is just the act of arranging letters and text in a way that people will be able to understand. Will be able to understand tutorial trying to communicate something. Arrangement particular, let's say including on newspaper and every other publication tell that story out there. So then also packaging, and having said that, a lot of times that we see particular hand, we should be able to apply this particular way, particular product on that catches your attention because of how it looks like. So one of the things I want to see, maybe you can just drop in the chat. What do you looking at all of skills that we understand packaging, also by colleagues, we need to understand the fundamentals. I want to share one of these from your own understanding. Are they fonts like are these fonts? What kind of feedback we need to understand how they change, how does it feel? Do you think they are? My own understanding is that motion graphics is just putting motion to graphics. It's putting motion to the image and making it image and involves some key elements. Somebody saying font family, somebody saying fonts, okay. Alright, balance, because of time, thank you very much. Repetition, the proximity is putting things that are similar. Thank you all for those contributions. Now, typeface. That's why it's called typeface. It encompasses a lot of styles. And and we decide that start to make all of those legible fountain clear, all of those visually appealing fonts. So one thing you need to emphasize with legibility introduction behind it must be legible. So we also talked about some of the areas. We also talk about some of the areas whereby graphic design is you're not just pushing pixels, you're not just doing different angles and paint. It's not just all about creating logos and font. Making introduction to that there is always an particular font being particular brand. Looking at their logo, California as an example. California has black, there's California bold, there's it's really bold, it's really light, in fact they're tiny, they're always they're small kind of thing. It's just all about the way of communication, the way one tries to communicate something. You actually communicate. So typeface is not really the same. You need to ensure that you are communicating Montserrat, even Times New Roman with the typeface. But now under Times New Roman, we did say that we are using Times New Roman italics as a font. We have Times New Roman bold as a font, also is a font style. So typeface is not the same as font. So when you're downloading next time, you're downloading a typeface, not really like a editor as if you're downloading I understand what the McGeorge typography is just the act of arranging letters font, that's text in a way that people will be able to understand between tutorial. Moving on, there's this other thing that you need to understand as regards typography, and that is serif and sans-serif. Now, serif is actually, let's say, included in our word and every other publication extension. You can see from the other screen, I actually made a circle around all of this S. There's this kind of, like call it, extension for it. When you look at the R as a base, the F as a base, the I as a base that is standing on. So for serif fonts, you always have those extensions. And one of the examples a lot of time comes to my mind when which is just you look at particular way, particular product, you see that it has extension. The key is not just how you know there are this. So one of the extension from the body of the font going out, the end is going out. There's this way it looks very, very unique. Now, one of the things that serif font want to see, maybe you can just drop in the chat, their font their traditional font as one of the views that we have packaging. They're not also by qualities, we need to understand the fundamentals. I want to share one of the views very important. That's just like from your own understanding. And this font is not just used anywhere. You can't just use serif fonts anywhere. For people that at this have done their curricular feedback, you see that most times they you don't just use serif just anyhow. Even looking at just the motion, it's actually motion. If you want to make it see on your phone, involves just key elements. You see sans serif. Now, what is sans serif? Sans serif is just without. Sans just means without. So sans serif means without those lines. Alright, just see that text. Because of the sans, like you mentioned, repetition at the base, proximity, this thing that so now very some are little sharp, some are bold. Now, in fact, some look really, really good. It is not used well, but it encompasses a lot of styles. So, and one of the things you need to do is legible. I think, yeah, one of the things that should be funding blocks for us is to also talk about lines, shapes, and all of those things, forms, because they are also still basic introductions to graphic design. Because even in typography, you still need all of those lines because they are baselines, and that has to do with all of this now. Looking at this image here, it is talking about spacing now. For spacing, we have kerning, leading, and tracking. Now, kerning is just the same thing as saying your line height, the distance between the base of your first line to the base of the second line. There's a way you can adjust it because that line communicates also, it makes your work neat and it makes your work readable. If you are writing a long paragraph and you didn't space those lines in a perfect ratio to your fonts, then you will have your work jam packed. Just look at it in a way like this. When you are trying to take notes in lectures and you are in a hurry to just take all of those notes that the lecturer is trying to say, the thing is most times people like me, users like goodness, we always write very small and just make sure you just want to get all those notes so that it's not in the head. But at the long run, when you see your notes, you don't see that why how did I write all of this jam packed together? But when there is proper spacing, it makes your work to breathe. It makes it legible. It makes people to see it. I tend to see that most times for you to come and meet me after a lecture to say, please, can I go through your note? I'll tell you you can't see it because the way it is written, I didn't give it proper line height. I just wrote um as let me see how the spirit is leading me. So those are leadings. I mean leadings. Leading is the same thing as line height. Then kenning is just like the spacing between um characters in a word. So possibly the spacing between the K and E as seen here, this blue line, the space between K and E. Most times, most typeface always have that problem. And that's why there's that provision for you to adjust that spacing. There are some typeface that doesn't have those kind of equal spacing between them and they are jam packed. So for such kind of maybe if you come across such kind of typeface and you're using that you just love that typeface and you fit into the work you want to do and you want to just use it and you are looking at it that the spacings between those characters are not even. What will help you to adjust it is the kenning. When we go through the particular design tool we'll be using, we'll be able to see how that can be done. We'll be able to see how you can adjust the kerning between all of these characters. Then another thing as regards spacing is tracking. Tracking is just also talking about spacing, but the difference between tracking and kerning. Let me talk about tracking. Tracking is just like equal spacing between all of those characters. Is almost the same thing as just I'm looking for a word to call it space between characters. That's just what comes to my head now. The space between each character, the space between T and R, A, C, K, I, N, G. Just that spacing, just expanding it, making sure you have that even spacing. That's tracking. So, but the difference between tracking and kenning is that you can adjust the space between just two using kenning. Kenning can help you to adjust the space between two characters while not touching other ones. But for tracking, as far as you're making adjustments to one, it's going all together. All together, it's moving all together. So that's like the major difference between kenning and tracking. So I'm moving to the next thing that we'll be talking about, which are colors. Now, we've all at a point used color for one thing or the other. Maybe you are trying to maybe you went to market and you just want to get something for yourself. One of the things that is like that prompts you to get things, especially for females. One of the things that prompts you to get most of the things you get sometimes is the color. It just gives you a kind of visual appeal that you feel like, oh wow, I love the way this thing looks. And most times you don't get it because you love the way it looks. I remember that the time I went to the market and I didn't have the intention of getting a wristwatch, but I was just passing at the shop. I just saw this wristwatch. I just saw the way it looks, and it looks so. It's not too big. It's not too small. It looks nice, and just looking at it, in fact, I bought it without thinking twice because I just felt it can look good to me. So most times, sometimes things that helps us to get things, like the reason behind us doing some action, sometimes colors play a long role in that. So one of the things color does is color enhance visual appeal. It sets the mood, it influences perception. Now, understanding colors help designers to create harmony, convey emotions, and improve user experience. Now, we dive into UX part now. User experience is just all about the feeling a user derives from something. So now talking about color now, in respect to that, the color you will be using as a graphic designer must be something that when your viewers just stumble on it, they should be able to feel like, wow, this is good. Even that you're trying to communicate, okay, the client gives you work to help him design a flyer, like let's say this fasting period now, there's like a Ramadan discount, and you're asked to design that kind of thing and just push it out. Imagine you using a very black color or a very dull color to just do that kind of thing. You know, people tend to just look at it as what is it? But something that is bright, colors that are bright, you see most times for all of these adverts, they use bright colors. Just it catches your attention quickly to say, what is this? What is this? It's like this is good, this is good. It's majorly those are the first thing that makes you engage. Seeing those colors makes you say, oh, I love this color, and you tend to look at the content and see. Most times as a designer, what keeps me to look at people's work is number one, the color. If I look at your work and I see that, yeah, good, thank God I remember now. And I look at the numbers of colors you use. One of the things that I see most designers also make mistake with is colors. You just think that since you can use color, they can just put like five, six different colors together. And one of the things you need to know is now color harmony. Now, in colors, you don't just use color anyhow because you just feel it looks good. I want you to look at it. Look at for people that have paint in the house, like they actually paint in the house. You will see that the color that is being used, especially for people that use like two colors to paint the house, you see that those colors look good. It's not as if you just paint it anyhow. Painters too has a way of going through all of these trainings of understanding how the motion and the reasons for using color, they tend to see, okay, these colors go together. Even for people in the fashion design, they also study color to know which color goes together. So in graphics too, there are colors that blend together. There are colors that they are just off, total off. I'm trying to think of a weird example now, but it's not just coming. Just imagine using a brown font on maybe just a very dull. So most times, except for people that know how to make use of tones, I try to get a better tone of brown. Sometimes brown, sometimes very looks really dull. But if there's a way you can use a tone of it and reduce the opacity and make sure that it's light a bit, it can still bring that feeling you want to evoke. But most times, dull fonts, just avoid them as graphic designers because they will make your work dull. Make your try to research about cool colors, blue, green, orange, all of those colors are catchy colors. When people see it on the go, you give them that sense of wow, this looks good. Now, talking about color models, there are different ways as regards color models. Uh, we traditionally do, let me just say color models, they still almost the same. It's just like a naming convention for color, depending on the software you're using. There are software that use RGB. RGB is red, green, and blue. And those are like a foundation for some softwares. I think for people that are into a bit of web development, we know RGB to some extent. You set a particular number for red, set a particular number for green, set a particular number for blue. Mixture of all of those things brings out other colors too. So that it depends on the software you're using actually. That is like a color model for a particular software. For softwares like Figma that I've used over time, I most of the time use hexadecimal. You use start with hash, and also there are people that did a bit of HTML basics, HTML fundamentals. You remember when you are doing your CSS and you open those curly brackets, you put hash, start with hash. If you don't start with hash, you don't get that color you're trying to run. Uh, I heard this is a very funny thing, though. Yeah, I still believe we are still learning, everybody's learning. Please, even for those that will still be taking the web development class, please go through those courses. They are very, very easy to follow through. And though it might demands your attention, just put your attention to it. I remember the days when I was still learning all of those codes. Just not putting ash. I would just be fighting with my brother. Why are you not picking out this color? And got the color. I just see that it's ash that meant green. That's hexadecimal. So for colors, there are software that uses hexadecimal, and if you don't input those colors well, it might not run it. And for some, it might suggest another different, maybe a default color. Because the software I use most times when I input, because hexadecimal is just code numbers, mixture of numbers in alphabet, and they are six. There are six other call them hexadecimal, six figures. 1, 2, 3, it's a mixture of 1, 2, 3 from A, B, C, D, E, and F. So it's taught as F. So you can see maybe 2A, 2A, 2A. That can be a font. That can be a color. You can see 3016 1F, depending on how you want to arrange those colors. That's like a language for that color model in that system. There can be another system that doesn't understand that uses HSW. HSW stands for hue, saturation, and brightness. So there are times you need that one, hue, saturation, and brightness. And also CMYK. CMYK is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Sometimes they call it key, but most times it's black. Now, all of this depends on the software you're using. For people that are into print, most times they use the PMKY because it's easy to separate colors because most times you see them not really printing. I don't know if you have taken it off sometimes whereby you see some designs, they are not really like it's not really like pink, it's not really like light pink. It's just a way actually they fade that color and make the color just true. Though the original design on its own has a lot of colors, but by the time they take it into the software and try to I've forgotten the name they call it. Is it decolorize? I don't want to use decolorize, but there's a way they go through it that try to um change that color to just maybe two or three major color because of why they are maybe um sometimes it can be that they want to separate, they don't want to use a lot of toner and they don't want to spend much printing because most times printing colors cost much. So printing maybe a particular work that has to do with just two colors will cost less than printing uh, copy that has to do with much colors. So those are color models. And I think I've talked about RGB. RGB is red, green, and blue. Hexadecimal short form is X. SWB, that's hue, saturation, and brightness. Um, Also, I've seen HLB also, hue, light, and then brightness. I think no, it's HSL, hue, saturation, and light. Also, it's almost similar to HSB also. And the CMYK, that's cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Now, talking about color harmony, one thing we need to know is we don't just pick colors. We don't just pick them because we feel like I want to use this color. I just want to, okay, let me mix my green with my purple and I want to mix it together and mix it with a bit of orange and just mix it with any color I just feel like. There are some words that I'll just see and I'll be like, God, what's this? So there needs to be harmony in what you do. And that's one thing as a designer. You're not just pushing things. In fact, most of the times I see graphics as something that is not just something you need to do on a go most times. It's something that maybe with time, because it has to do with your experience. With time, you'll be able to know some few features. But when you're just starting, I remember most times when I go back to check my files and I see some of the designs that was making my head spark those days, and I'm like, God, what is this? I would just I would just see gradient, I would see myself play with funny colors, and I'll be like, oh God, I remember this good small beginning where I'll just pick colors and in my mind I'm like, wow, this looks very good. But one thing we need to understand is there needs to be harmony. There needs to be like a synergy between all of the things you do. So if you are picking a color, there are things there are like rules that guide you in actually picking a color palette. One of the rules that guide you is complementary colors. There are complementary colors. Complementary colors on a color wheel, that are just like the opposite to that color wheel. And is my voice still visible? Can you still hear me? Okay. Because I need comments in the chat. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So, complementary colors, they're just opposite colors on the color wheel. Just take up what is vertically opposite it. Then also we have analogous, we have monochromatic color scheme, right? Sorry. We have triangular, we have square. There are also all of those kind of things. I believe in the resource section, we'll be able to, or drop a link to Adobe Colors. You can just check that out. Adobe Colors. If you check Adobe Colors, it gives you the opportunity to play with those color schemes. So when you are picking a color, you generally want to pick a base color. So I'm picking green as my base color, maybe because what I'm trying to do has to do with nature or has to do with let's say anything pertaining to just nature or maybe environment or something that has to do with SDGs and something that has to do with nature generally, you pick green as a base color. Then you begin to check your color wheel, check, okay, what's the complementary color to green? Okay, I think if I'm using this, it should go. I think if I'm using this, it should go. This should complement it. It should not complement it. If you look at this presentation slide, you will notice that I made use of just two colors, this kind of orange color and this blue color. I checked, while I was checking, I was preparing the slide, I picked the base color from Unilorin logo and I just checked online. Following this color harmony, you will see that it complements each other. It's not as if it's off. Just imagine if I'm putting maybe like a, a light blue here now. It might look somehow to you and it might not really blend together. Also in color models, sorry, in colors, you need to understand that you use black and use white almost all times. They are just like neutral colors. They help all of the other colors that you use because you agree with me that you can wear black on any color. For talking about dress now, when you have for the guys, when you have your trouser, your black trouser, they are good to go for any occasion that has to do with corporate, any corporate gathering. Just wear your shirt, wear any color of the shirt, it goes with black. Wear anything, just think about any color, just put it on, it goes with black. Is it ash? Is it yellow? Is it red? Is it green? Just think about any color, it goes with black. So black and white in design are neutral colors. Sometimes they don't really have like they are not really standing like the colors you are using. I've been in training before and the person was saying that in fact they don't really count them as colors because they're just neutral. Their work is just to complement other colors and make it look really, really good. Now, talking about colors, um, on the color wheel, we know that we have primary colors, we have secondary colors, and we have tertiary colors. Now, primary colors combines yellow, red, and blue. That's like the base color for any other thing you want to do in graphics. Now, the combination of these primary colors leads to secondary color. And the combination of a secondary with maybe a primary leads to tertiary colors. So just like I would like to paint this scenario of primary is just like the foundation, just like everybody went through primary school. Primary school is where they teach you the arithmetic, how you need to add, how you need to subtract, how you need to multiply, how you need to divide. Those are like basic foundation for every other thing you want to do. If you're engineering, you still need to add. If that understanding is not laid, you can't do well in secondary school. So now secondary now has to do with combining primary knowledge together. You combine, okay, when you combine yellow with blue, it gives you gray. When you combine yellow with red, it gives you orange. When you combine blue with red, it gives you purple. So now that has to do with secondary colors. Now, when you do other combination, maybe you're combining green with yellow, you have yellow green. When you combine yellow with this, you have yellow orange, and all of other colors that we see now. In fact, these days we tend to have some funny naming conventions for color you're hearing of. I've heard of pepper red. I don't know. I believe we've heard of some colors that we just laugh. It was like, what's all of this? Pepper red, tomato red. Uh, it was just some funny naming conventions for colors. Now, we have primary colors, we have secondary colors, we have tertiary colors. Primary colors are the base. Secondary color is addition of two, at least. It's just addition of two primary colors. Then tertiary colors is the addition of secondary with a primary color. So that has to do with color. This is the color. Now talking about uh the harmony I was talking about. Now on the color wheel, the one directly facing it are complementary colors. This can be like a split complementary colors. If you just go through the resources, I'll drop a link to that Adobe color so that can guide you to look at how you pick out your color palette to say, okay, these are the colors I work with. And also there are sites that help you generate your color palette so that at least they work with all of those rules, and those rules are well laid down in such a way that they 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 form a synergy. It's not just picking colors from randoms. Those colors are because the developers they've gone through maybe color theory, they understand how to harmonize colors together. So by the time they develop those kind of sites, just you put in your base colors, you can get like five other colors that complement that base colors. And a good example of just what website is colors, COOLOR. You just get colors. Colors, I don't know if it's just come, just Google it and just get colors. You see that for particular website, you can just, and you hit your space bar, you just keep having different palettes, different color palettes, and you can make use of that. You can leverage on that to create a very good design. Now, I'll be going to a bit of color. Okay, color psychology now. Now, I was saying that you are not just picking colors because you want to be there. Colors have reasons. There are reasons you are picking color. Now, example, red. You agree with me that you have seen red maybe most times. Let me talk about the popular one, Coca-Cola, because red is a color that brings excitement, talks about strength, love, and energy. Now you see that anything that has to do with Valentine, I want to believe, yeah, we had last season, last month, Valentine, you see that all of the designs for Valentine's were just red, were just red, were just red. Just see that red heart everywhere. Now you use that for love, you use that for excitement, something that excites you. You use that for strength, you use that for energy. Now orange, creativity, enthusiasm, sociability. Then yellow evokes joy, optimism, warmth, cheer. Green talks about nature, healing, freshness, quality. Blue talks about trust, peace, loyalty, competence. That's why you see Facebook using blue, trust, you can trust them. Pink, compassion, sincerity, sophistication, sweet. Purple has to do with royalty, luxury. You tend to see most anything that has to do with luxury brand will just be on that purple, be a tint of that purple. Luxury brands, most times you see them using gold. Those are luxury colors, something that has to do with luxury, spirituality, ambition. Then we have other ones. And you see brown, that has to do with dependable, they are rugged, trustworthy, they are earthy. Black has to do with formality, is also secure, sophistication. White has to do with clean, simplicity, innocent, honest. Okay, and I'll be trying to I picked few brands to talk about all of this. You see now that Coca-Cola, for PNN, for Ado, all of those colors they are picking is because they have a thought process behind it. They have a thought process behind it. It's not just you don't just use it because they use it. They are trying to communicate what they do. They're trying to communicate, okay, yeah, this there's energy driving us in this our brand. We are excited, there's strength, okay, we have love for our users and all of those stuff like that. You can see um uh Fanta using orange. You can see orange in Amazon. You can see most brands. Just try to check all of these brands and try to see. You begin to see the reasons they are using them. National Geographic. If you check talks about joy, warmth, cheer, optimism. You can check all of these whole food, check all of these in all of them has to do with nature, and that's why you see them in green. Check PayPal blue, HP blue, the Samsung color blue, Intel blue, and all of those stuff like that. So that has to do with like the brain behind using all of those colors. That's like the brain behind using those colors. Then moving on, we want to talk about now the synergy between typography and color. Now, our understanding of typography is also still you need to couple that with color to make sure that you are presenting something very good. So one thing you need to ensure in combining those two is contrast. Now, contrast is just ensuring readability, just to ensure that you can read. Uh, sorry, excuse me. You can read whatever text or whatever graphics or whatever design you're pushing out. There should be high contrast. And one of the rules that will guide you in contrast is you don't use a dark text on a dark background because you can't see it. You can't have a background color of maybe like let's say off black, something that is black but not really not really 000 or black in example 000, but at least something that is black and you're not using this kind of blue, this blue font that I picked from the Unilorin logo and you're just using that kind of dark blue on it. You can't see what is there. You just tend to look at it and feel like what it is. Now you can look at this text now. Talking about accessibility, I said use high contrast colors combination. Now, you agree with me that that first yellow box, you can see it, but it takes time for you to see that you see it's saying, can you see me? Looking at the second one, you can see it without even just thinking twice, you can see it because looking at the first one, it doesn't work with that rule of contrast. You are using a light background and you're using a light text on it. It doesn't work together. You use a dark text on a light background. That will serve as a contrast. Now, contrast is just um, all about ensuring that you are giving attention to all of those elements you are putting there. Typography is like elements of design. So you try to make other things not choke what you're trying to present so that it can come out, it can stand out. Contrast is just about standing out. You see that text is standing out from the background. It's not blending with the background. Now, looking at the last one, the last rectangle, it's also visible, but you just have to strain your eyes to see that there's a black text inside that blue. And that was what I was trying to talk about. Now, if you look at, also, I'm making um, a reference to this slide also. Look at the slide in Mark Techie and our website, www.marktechie.com. You can visit that to check all of the resources that we have put together for this you inspire. They are all there. You can just go through that and please follow us. So now looking at this, you see that it's a light text. The text is white, the background is dark, and that's the reason you can see it very well. You don't need to strain your eyes to see what is there. But look at the third rectangle that I have there. You can't see what is there. Everything is just black. So one of the things you need to ensure in combining text and color together is contrast. You must ensure that you put dark on light or you put light on dark so that it can create that difference between those two elements. Now, another thing is the mood arrangement. Now, also in use of in use of fonts now, and where you are trying to bring about like, okay, an arrangement, an hierarchy, the font you use can also create like an hierarchy. You are using a bold font for the heading, and you're using maybe like a regular font, like the regular, let me use intern as an example. Intern typeface now as intern regular, intern semi-bold, intern regular, intern medium, intern semi-bold, intern bold, uh, and black, something like that. It keeps increasing in that width, in that font width. Now, one of the things you need to do is to create that synergy, that mood arrangement. You need to use a much more, let's say, you're using a bold or maybe semi-bold, something that is thick, that the weight is thick as the heading. And for the body flex or other elements on your graphics, you can use maybe regular fonts. You can use maybe like a thin, but they are still small, very tiny. It it makes that work come out well. It makes that work come out well. So those are part of the principles you need to understand that in color pairing now. Talking about color pairing, I was saying earlier that you can use combination of serif and sans-serif to make sure that the editing is like the serif and the body is sans serif. It makes that work very standard. It makes it come out well. It looks good. Now, that that alongside with vibrant colors help you to set the mood. Now, when you are picking like a bold font for the edit, make sure you are also using a color that that evokes that emotion that you actually want to drive. Maybe you're talking about discounts. Sometimes discount is put in a flashy color that makes you see this font and you see like 80% discount and it's the one staring at you. You feel like, wow, 80% discount. What's this thing all about? What's this all about? You tend to sit and say, wow, 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 wow. It catch your attention and makes you feel like, I need to jump into this. I need to jump into this. So, talking about having talked about that, I move to consistency. Consistency. Now, in design, you need to be consistent with what you are doing. You don't just mess around with things. You need to follow, uh, you need to be consistent. And that has to do with one of the things we learned in our first class last week. And if you missed that class, you can go to our YouTube channel, Mark Techie. You are going to see that video there. You can just go there to just watch that session so that you can understand some of the things we are talking about here. Now, talking about repetitions now. Repetitions in designs help your work to look very good because you are repeating stuff together and it makes that work come unique. It makes it look really, really good. Now, I want to use the example of the ties. For people that in their house they have ties, you see that most times the repeating pattern of those ties makes the room look very good. Maybe the way they are arranging it, maybe they take the longer, they put short here, they put long here. Now, by the time they combine, they repeat that same pattern. Your work come out very, very neat. Your work comes out neat and good. So consistency in design too is part of it. Now, in design, you need to just stick with I would say just stick with two typefaces because when you begin to use three, four, it doesn't really make your work really, really, really. People just tend to see different font weights, and they are seeing different typeface. You are seeing scripts, you are seeing display, you are seeing sans serif. Yeah, in fact, you put everything. No, it's going to make your work messy and it's going to make your work not come out well. So consistency, you need to be consistent with all of the elements you are using. You need to be consistent with it. That's has to do with that. Then yeah, accessibility matters because that's one thing in graphics. Your work needs to be accessible. You use high contrast. And there's this site also I'll drop in the resource that will help you to really check if colors match each other. Like, can I use this text on this background? It tells you that the ratio it gives a ratio of maybe two. When you pass that check part, it fixes it to say, okay, you can use this. But when you don't pass it, it cancels it to make sure that these colors don't go. So accessibility matters. It matters a lot in graphics. Now, talking about legible font now, also talking about accessibility. Now, I picked this design on one of our co-designers. Um, I guess that's the name on the design. I decided to just put it there because it belongs to him and I give credit to him. He did a very good job. Now, looking at that design, it comes out on it's Friday, a perfect day to wrap up the week, unwind and get ready for a fabulous weekend. Like the message is clear. It's just talking about the weekend, just trying to give you those kind of encouragements for the weekend that, oh, you've the perfect day to wrap up all of your week. You've gone through the stress of Monday up to this very moment, and you feel like, wow, this is the perfect time to relax from all of the stress after today, after Sunday, and stuff like that. Now, on the contrary, look at the image on your right. Look at the way the Friday looks like. At first, it just makes you feel like, are we doing horror movie here? Like, what's all of this all about? Look at the script. I want to believe you will look at the script and try to look at it before you read, okay, the perfect day to you begin to wonder, what is this? But one thing you must ensure is your font must be legible as far as you're pushing content to the social media. Make it legible, make it something you can see. Except you are specifically, I talked about script fonts you are using on certain aspects. And make sure even you are using the script, even the script font has a way at which you can also still tweak the settings. There are other kind of advanced settings to those typograph, those typeface rather. The way you can control the T, the way you can control the E, the way you can control the Y. There are other things that also still help in legibility. Just make sure your work is legible. Make sure your work can be seen. Make sure that you can access it very clear. People coming to check some of the content you are seeing, make sure they just see it and on glance, like this cool designer here, the first person that did this wonderful design. Seeing it, you see that okay, Friday, the perfect, you see it, it looks very good, it looks very neat. But looking at the other one, even though it's still the same thing, but it's still trying to tell the same story, but the method is adopted is frustrating. And one of the thing in UX is like this bad UX because how will I be able to read this? Now imagine maybe trying to go through maybe for example now you have an assignment as a student, or let's talk about projects. You're trying to research about your project and maybe all the websites you're checking, you're now seeing them using scripts, or you're seeing this kind of typeface, this Friday kind of typeface on the whole website. I'm very sure you'll be frustrated and you just drop your phone to say, what's all of this? What's all of this? Because it just doesn't give you the vibe to read more. Now, sans-serif fonts are modern fonts and it gives that vibe to say that, oh, you want to finish to just you want to just make sure that this thing is communicating the right thing. So now as a wrap up, now talking about resource and tools, typography, one of the things that will help you to understand typography is Google Fonts. I just go on and just search for Google Fonts. You see a lot of free source fonts there. Now, another thing I'll talk about is in typography, there are free fonts, there are free typeface, there are paid ones. So it depends on whatever you want to use. There are some typefaces that are not free. You have to pay for it because there are still people that go into typography in the sense that they go into typography design. They are the one that structure all of the designs. There are some fonts you see and you be like, wow, this font looks so good. And by the time you start it up, you see that you have to pay $25 to get it. You're just like, oh, let me just leave it. Let's go to our open source. So Google Fonts is open source. You can go there to just take a lot of fonts and they are free. You can download those typeface and you can use them free of charge. They are open source typeface. Now, another thing for the resource in typography is font pair. It helps you to pair your fonts. It helps you to know, okay, can I use Intern or Montserrat? Can I use play play fair display on this? It helps you to just arrange this well. Then font joy is also joy fonts rather. It's also the same thing as that. Wolf type wolf also helps you in typography. Now I talked about Adobe Color. I talked about Adobe Color while I was presenting. Adobe Color helps you. Colors, that's the colors I'm talking about. Color ons. It helps you. Now, the last, which is contrast. Contrast checker, you can just go through this resource. It helps you to just give the disparity between if that particular color will go or it will not go. So I think with that, we come to the end of today's section. Thank you very much for your time. And I can hand it over now to the moderator for question and answer. So thank you very much and good evening, everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Goodness, for this really good session. There's a lot of thank yous coming in. I can't even count how many. So on behalf of everybody, I keep scrolling with the thank yous. Thank you very much. Now, if any of you has any questions, put in your questions in the chat box and we'll get right to it. Any questions? Okay, so Mr. Goodness, we have one question from BK Graphics. He said, a maximum of how many colors is okay for a design, sir? It seems our instructor is currently not on the call, so once he joins back, he's going to be answering all the questions. For the person asking about the attendance will be sent in soon. But as for the answering the questions, give us a couple of minutes while he tries to join in back. Sorry for the delay. We are still sorting out the network issues, and the attendance will be sent soon. Okay, so in light of the network issues, the attendance will be sent in now, and all your questions will be addressed in the next class. So please just keep sending in your questions, submit your questions, and then we'll take note of everything, and then it will all be sent in the next class. The attendance form has already been sent, so fill in everything. For those having problem with the form link, keep trying it because it's working on my end. And the next class will be next week, Thursday, 4 to next week, Friday. The next web design class will be next week, Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And next week, Friday is on the 28th of March, 2025. So the next class, which is next week, is going to be on image editing and digital illustration basics. And you're going to be having your assignment, which will cover the 3 sessions next week. So any other information will be sent on the Telegram and on the WhatsApp group. So just fill the attendance form if you're done with that. Yes, you can leave the meeting and see you next week. Next week on Friday. So please do well to inform other people that you know that are under graphics design with McGeorge Consulting, and to let them know that they should join the next class. There will be assignments that are being taken. And for those that are having problem with filling the form, please keep refreshing your page because it's working on our end and we can see that a lot of people are filling it. So it's like the problem is likely from your end. Okay, so this session has come to an end. See you all next week, Thursday.
The recording has stopped.